Who's got Jameed? We're craving mansaf. Who's got Jameed? If you haven't heard of Jameed, then you probably haven't tasted Jameed. Let's just say it's a mix of salty, sour, tangy, with a pungent aroma of nature. I think that's a good way to describe it. Nature in the sense that it comes from sheep's milk or goat's milk, and it has a very distinct smell, it has a very distinct taste. And I think that's what makes it so addictive when it's mixed in with the meats and spices to make mansaf, which is the Jordanian national dish. So where does Jameed come from? Well, the Bedouin, who were nomadic desert dwellers, needed a way to preserve their laban. And so they came up with this Jameed, which is a dried and hardened laban. The laban is formed into balls and allowed to dry in the sun. This would keep it from spoiling. Today, Jameed is made throughout Jordan, but mainly in al-karak or karak and Madaba, two cities that are south of the capital, Amman. Both cities are very close in proximity to the Dead Sea, which is on the border between the Palestinian territories, Israel, and Jordan. The most famous Jameed, I think, is the al-karak Jameed. It's prized and very sought after, both in Jordan and if you're in the US like us and you're craving mansaf and you want to cook with the original Jameed, you want the al-karak Jameed. Now, al-karak is also known for its huge castle that sits on a hilltop overlooking the entire city. And this castle was built during the Crusades back in the 1140s. And the Karak Castle, or Karak of the Desert, or Stone of the Desert as it's called, was again built during the 1140s, back during the time of the Crusades. And it's one of the largest crusade castles in all of Levant. And the Levant region is between Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, and Jordan. Now, the laban or yogurt used to make the jameed comes from goat's milk or sheep's milk. Now, because Jordan is very dry, the goats are free range and the sheep are free range. They eat almost any vegetation, the grass, olive tree leaves, nuts, and that diet really has an influence on the taste of their milk and the taste of the yogurt that's made from the milk. So when making the jameed, it's heated in these large cauldrons with salt, and as the yogurt thickens, it then gets strained in cheesecloth to remove the whey. Now this process can take 1 or 2 days to complete. And once it's firm enough, it's then rolled into these jameed balls. Really, a lot of them are more oval or egg-shaped. For example, this woman is holding one, and it reminds me of an ostrich egg. But once the jameed balls are formed, they're then dried for several weeks so that they reach a stone-hard consistency. Now they need to be dried thoroughly so that there's no moisture left in them, because the moisture can turn to mold and that would spoil the Jameed. Jameed has a very distinct smell. It has a very distinct taste. Again, it's made from sheep's milk or goat's milk, so it's very earthy in its flavor. It's salty and sour at the same time. It's tangy because it's been fermented. Um, the final color of the Jameed really depends on how it's been dried. If it's been dried in the sun, it's going to be more yellow in color, and if it's dried in the shade, it's going to be more white in appearance. Again, the Jameed is one of the key ingredients in mansaf. Mansaf, again, is the national dish of Jordan. If you're in Jordan, you're likely going to be having it every Friday afternoon with your family because it's a great way to kick off the weekend, which starts on Friday in the Middle East. So the dish itself consists of the lamb and Jameed sauce, rice, toasted nuts, and a base of this bread called shrak bread. So the process for this is first cooking the lamb. And because the lamb is free range, because it's halal, it's very natural tasting. There are no chemicals in the meat. The meat is boiled until it's almost fall off the bone tender. It's then transferred to the Laban sauce or the Jameed sauce. And that Jameed sauce is made by liquefying that dried Jameed ball. And you do that by putting it in water, putting it in a blender, adding some mansaf spice, simmering it, and simmering it with the lamb. So while that's simmering, you can prepare the rice, which is cooked with samna. And samna is palm oil. You might also think of it as a ghee. Now, cooking it with this palm oil not only adds the yellow color, but it also adds a distinct fragrance and flavor to the rice. So we've got the rice, we've got the lamb, the Jameed sauce. To assemble this dish, which is usually served on a huge platter and presented to family or guests on this huge platter, you start first by putting this layer of the shrak bread. And the shrak bread on the bottom is just awesome because it really absorbs all the flavors from the food on top, from the oil from the rice and the meat and the Jameed sauce. It just catches and absorbs all of those flavors. So on the bottom, you've got the shrak bread. You put a layer of the rice. You put the meat, a little bit of the Jameed sauce. You can top it with toasted almonds and toasted pine nuts, even some fresh parsley as a garnish. And voila, you serve that to your guests. Now, the mansaf is usually eaten with the hands. Traditionally, it's eaten with the hands. And I think using your hands actually enhances the already amazing flavor of this dish. There's just something about, I guess, the touching and the tactile, whatever of, you're touching your food and you're gently rolling this in your hand and then you're popping the mansaf in your mouth. It's just awesome. So that's the mansaf. You can use chicken as a variation to the mansaf, but traditionally the lamb is used. And again, it's halal, it's free range, it's just when you cook the lamb correctly and with the proper time and everything, it's just fall off the bone so tender, it's like butter. Now, normally there aren't any leftovers when you serve mansaf, but if there are leftovers, you can create a little fusion sandwich called mansafito. And what it is, it's the mansaf rolled and toasted in a tortilla, served with the Jameed sauce on the side. And you can, while you're eating the sandwich, you can just dip the sandwich in the Jameed sauce. Other dishes that you can make, prepare using the Jameed is one is called al-rashuf, which is a soup. It's another Bedouin dish. The mansaf is traditionally a Bedouin dish, and this al-rashaf soup is also a Bedouin dish, and it's traditionally a winter dish served in northern Jordan. And it consists of green lentils, a coarse wheat flour, the Jameed, and onion, and it can be served with like the shrak bread. There's also another dish called shakreye, which is a lamb stew made with onions, Jameed, and lamb. So if you're craving mansaf, after all this talking I've been doing, you're probably craving mansaf now, right? But where do you find mansaf? Where do you find Jameed when you're outside of Jordan? Well, fortunately, you can find Jameed on the internet. You can find it on eBay, you can find it on Etsy, you can find it at the bedouincompany.com. What Jameed do you pick? Well, if you can find Jameed, the original Jameed, I suggest you get the original al-karak Jameed first. This is the original Jameed, the most flavor, the most organic, naturally produced. If you can't find the original Jameed, go with the al-basha. We've used it. What I like about the al-basha is that it's prepared in smaller portions, so you can use one ball for a smaller mansaf dish. Al-basha also produces the Jameed in an industrial setting, so it's a licensed facility, it's hygienically, sanitationally clean. The ingredients are pretty standard. The ball shapes, weights are more uniform. It's very well packaged, commercially attractive. It's got the ingredients, the expiration date, where it's manufactured. It's got the nutritional information on it, and it's also very well sealed to preserve that very distinct, pungent aroma and flavor of the Jameed. So I like the al-basha. If you can't find the hard Jameed, try the liquid Jameeds. Al-basha also has a liquid Jameed, and Kashi also has a liquid Jameed. The thing about the liquid Jameeds is that they will contain additives such as vegetable oil and spices. But again, they do make a good substitute if you can't find the hard Jameed. So Jameed is proudly made in Jordan, and the Bedouin Company proudly supplies the Jameed. Come find us on eBay. Look for the Bedouin Company. Come find us on eBay. Come find us on Etsy. Or you can visit us at thebedouincompany.com. Thanks a lot, everyone, and talk to you next time.